My name is Eleanor Carter. I am 78 years old, and I have lived long enough to know that greed can twist even the most loving heart into something unrecognizable. The night my daughter and son smashed my husband's urn searching for the will, I realized they were no longer the children I once raised. They were strangers blinded by desperation, clawing at ashes to find answers they were never supposed to have. The sound of the urn shattering still rings in my ears. It fell to the floor, scattering my husband's remains across the living room carpet like gray snow. My daughter screamed, "Where is it? Where did you hide it, Mom?" While my son tore through drawers, pictures, and shelves. Their voices cracked with rage, their eyes wild like predators. All I could do was stand there, holding my cane, watching the people I brought into this world destroy everything sacred in our home. "Tell us where the will is, or we'll tear this whole house apart," my son shouted, his face red with fury. I felt my heart ache, not because of their words, but because they thought they could break me. They thought they could scare me into revealing a secret that could never be theirs to claim. I remained silent, my trembling hands clutched tightly around the cane, and that silence enraged them even more. My daughter collapsed to her knees, her fingers sifting through the ashes, crying and cursing me under her breath. She didn't even notice that the locket containing my husband's hair had fallen out of the broken urn. She was too focused on finding the will, something she believed would give her the life she thought she deserved. But the truth? The truth was something far more dangerous than any piece of paper they could ever hold. As they tore apart the house like wild animals, I remembered the day I hid the real truth, the day I decided to protect something greater than wealth or property. They believed there was money, land, and treasures waiting for them in that will, but what they didn't know was that the will wasn't what they thought it was. And I wasn't the fragile old woman they thought they could push around. "Mom, where is it?" My son screamed one last time, his hands shaking as he lifted the broken pieces of the urn. I stepped closer, my voice calm but cold, and said, "You will regret what you just did. That urn held more than your father's ashes." Their faces turned pale, confusion flashing in their eyes, but before they could say another word, a knock came at the door. A slow, deliberate knock that sent shivers down my spine. Who could it be at this hour, and why did the sound of that knock feel like the beginning of something none of us could control? The knock on the door echoed again, louder this time, almost as if whoever stood outside knew the chaos unfolding inside our home. My children froze, their anger replaced by fear. My daughter wiped the ashes from her trembling hands while my son glanced at me, expecting me to move first. But I didn't. I stood still, letting the silence stretch long enough for them to feel the weight of what they had done. Finally, I walked to the door, each step of my cane tapping against the floor like a warning. When I opened it, a tall man in a dark suit stood under the porch light. His expression was unreadable, his posture rigid. "Mrs. Carter?" he asked in a deep voice. "Yes," I answered, my voice steady. "I'm here regarding the property and the transfer documents your late husband prepared," he said, glancing over my shoulder at the mess behind me. My children stiffened at his words. Their eyes lit up with greed, thinking the man's visit confirmed their belief that a fortune awaited them. But they had no idea who he truly was or why he had come at this exact moment. "Come in," I said, stepping aside. The man entered, his polished shoes crunching over the broken pieces of the urn. He didn't flinch. He handed me a sealed envelope, one with my name written in my husband's handwriting. My heart skipped a beat. My children stared like hungry wolves, desperate to snatch it from my hands, but I clutched it tightly against my chest. "What is this?" my son demanded. The man looked at him with cold, piercing eyes. "This is not for you," he replied. "It's only for Mrs. Carter. Your father's instructions were clear." His words sliced through the room like a blade. My daughter's face twisted with anger as she stepped forward, but the man raised his hand, stopping her. "Do not test me," he warned, his voice like steel. The tension was unbearable. My children were shaking with frustration, their voices rising as they demanded answers. "Mom, what's in that envelope? Is that the will?" my daughter shouted. I turned to them, my hand still clutching the envelope. You think you deserve everything your father built? You think you can smash his urn, curse my name, and still claim what's his? My voice trembled with both pain and power. You have no idea what this envelope holds. And when you do, it will be too late. The man leaned closer to me and whispered, "Are you ready to reveal the truth?" I nodded slowly, knowing the storm that was about to hit us all. My children didn't hear what he said, but they saw the look in my eyes. Then, just as the man was about to speak, a loud crash came from the backyard. Glass shattered, the wind howled through the broken window, and in the shadows, a figure moved quickly, disappearing into the darkness. My son rushed toward the back door, but by the time he got there, the figure was gone. Who was outside our house? And what were they looking for? Stay with me, because the secrets hidden in the night will change everything you thought you knew. Like, comment, and subscribe, because what comes next will leave you speechless. Ask ChatGPT. The broken window rattled as the cold night wind blew into the house. My son stood frozen by the door, his chest heaving, while my daughter clung to the wall, her face pale. The man in the suit calmly adjusted his tie, as if he expected this intrusion. He turned to me and said in a low voice, "It begins sooner than we thought." My heart pounded, but I forced myself to stay composed. "Lock the doors," I told my son, "and close the curtains. No one must see what's inside this house tonight." My voice was sharp, and for the first time, my children listened without question. Fear had stripped them of their arrogance. The man stepped closer, his voice now firm. "Mrs. Carter, we must act fast. The envelope must not fall into the wrong hands. You know what's at stake." My daughter's confusion boiled into anger. "What's at stake, Mom? What are you hiding from us?" Her voice cracked as tears welled in her eyes. "Is this about the money? The property? Just tell us." I looked at her, my heart aching. She was my baby once, the little girl who clung to my dress. But now, greed had hardened her. "This is about more than money," I said quietly. "Your father left behind something none of you are ready to face. Something that could destroy you or save you." My son stepped forward, fists clenched. "Enough with the riddles. You've been keeping secrets from us our whole lives. If Dad left something for us, we have the right to know." The man in the suit interrupted, his voice cold. "Your father left instructions that only your mother is to decide who learns the truth. And from what I see tonight, neither of you are worthy." His words cut deep, and my children's faces twisted with rage and shame. Suddenly, a shadow moved across the curtain. Someone was watching us from outside. The man drew back slightly, his eyes narrowing. "They found us," he whispered. "We have to leave this house immediately." My son shouted. "Who found us? What are you talking about?" But before anyone could answer, a loud knock echoed at the front door, harder than before, shaking the frame. Then came a voice, low and menacing. "Eleanor, open the door. You know why we're here." My blood ran cold. That voice belonged to someone I thought was long gone. My hands trembled as I clutched the envelope tighter. My daughter looked at me, her eyes wide with terror. "Mom, who is that?" I didn't answer. Instead, I turned to the man in the suit. "It's time," I said. He nodded and stepped between me and the door, ready for whatever was about to happen. The knock came again, louder, more violent. The voice growled, "You have something that doesn't belong to you. Hand it over, or this house will burn before sunrise." My children clung to each other, fear swallowing their greed. The man in the suit reached inside his coat and pulled out something shiny, something I never expected to see in his hand. The next moment, the door handle began to turn on its own. What was on the other side of that door? And would we survive the night to tell the tale? The door creaked open slowly, revealing nothing but darkness beyond the porch light. The wind howled, swirling the ashes still scattered across the floor. My heart thudded in my chest as the man in the suit raised the metallic object in his hand. It was a small gun, sleek and deadly. My children gasped. From the shadows outside, a figure stepped forward. His face was partially hidden under a hood, but when he finally looked up, My knees almost gave way. It was Victor, my late husband's estranged brother, the man who disappeared 25 years ago after betraying our family. I thought he was dead. "Eleanor," he said, his voice cold as ice. "You have something that belongs to me. Your husband promised it would be mine." My son stammered. "Uncle Victor? But Dad said you were
Dead.
Victor smirked. "No, boy. I was waiting, watching. And now, I've come for what's rightfully mine." The man in the suit stepped in front of me, his voice firm. "You're not getting anything, Victor. You know what Robert wanted. You have no claim." Victor laughed bitterly. "Robert is ashes on the floor, and she's a frail old woman clinging to secrets she doesn't understand." He stepped forward, and my son instinctively moved to block him, but Victor's glare stopped him cold. "Step aside, boy. You don't know what you're protecting." My daughter's voice trembled. "Mom, what is going on? What did Dad leave behind?" I took a deep breath, my hands gripping the envelope tighter. "Your father discovered something before he died. Something that could ruin Victor and everyone connected to him. That's why he disappeared, why he hid the will." My voice cracked, but I forced myself to continue. "And that's why I hid the truth." Victor snarled, his patience running thin. "Enough lies, Eleanor. Give me the envelope, or I'll take it by force." The man in the suit cocked the gun, the sound echoing through the room. "Take one more step, and you won't leave this house alive," he warned. The tension was so thick it felt like the walls themselves were holding their breath. Then, without warning, Victor lunged forward. The man fired a warning shot into the floor, the bang deafening, causing my daughter to scream and my son to fall back. Victor stopped, his eyes wild with fury. "You think a bullet will stop me? I've waited too long for this," he roared. In the chaos, I clutched the envelope and ran to the fireplace, my cane clattering against the floor. My children stared as I threw the envelope into the flames. The fire roared, swallowing the paper whole. "No!" Victor screamed, lunging toward the fire, but the man in the suit pushed him back with the barrel of the gun. My children watched in shock as the envelope burned to ash, the truth with it, or so they thought. Victor's rage turned into something darker, something almost unhuman. He backed away slowly, his eyes glowing with something sinister. "You'll regret this, Eleanor. This isn't over. I'll be back for what's mine." He turned and disappeared into the night, leaving the door swinging open and the cold wind flooding the room. My children stood frozen, their faces pale with fear and confusion. My son finally spoke, his voice shaking. "Mom, what did you just do? Was that the will?" I turned to them slowly, my eyes hard as steel. "That was a decoy. The real truth is hidden where no one, not even Victor, will ever think to look." The man in the suit gave me a knowing nod. "You've just bought us time, Mrs. Carter, but not much." The night was far from over, and the danger had only begun. Because Victor wasn't the only one hunting for the truth. If you're holding your breath right now, good. You should be. This story is only getting darker and more dangerous. Stay tuned, because the next chapter will reveal secrets that will leave you trembling. Like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss what happens when the real enemy steps out of the shadows. The house was silent after Victor vanished into the darkness, but it was the kind of silence that screams louder than any sound. My daughter sat on the floor, staring at the ashes in the fireplace, while my son paced back and forth like a caged animal. The man in the suit remained by the door, his eyes scanning the outside as if expecting Victor to return at any moment. I walked slowly to my chair, every step of my cane echoing in the tense room. My children turned to me with questions in their eyes, questions they were too afraid to ask. Finally, my son broke the silence. "Mom, if that wasn't the real will, where is it? What is so important that people are willing to kill for it?" I looked at him, my heart aching. "Your father uncovered something years ago, something Victor didn't want anyone to know. He wrote it into his will not as an inheritance, but as a warning. He knew the truth would put everyone in danger, so he entrusted me to keep it hidden. And that's exactly what I've done." My daughter's voice trembled. What truth, Mom? Please, we need to know. Before I could answer, the man in the suit interrupted. It's not safe to stay here. Victor has eyes everywhere. If he knows the will still exists, he'll stop at nothing to find it. We have to move her. Move her? Where? My son asked sharply. To a place where Victor can't reach her, the man replied, his tone serious. But she has to come willingly. And you too, you need to decide whether you're on her side or not. My children exchanged a look, their earlier greed replaced with fear. Of course we're on her side, my daughter said, but her voice lacked conviction. I knew they were torn between their desire for the inheritance and the growing realization that their lives were in danger. This is bigger than money, I said quietly. The truth your father left behind could destroy Victor and his entire empire. That's why he wants it so badly. My son frowned. Empire?
What are you talking about?
Before I could explain, the man in the suit's phone buzzed. He answered it quickly, listening intently. His expression darkened. They've found us, he said, hanging up. My daughter gasped. Who's they? Victor's men, he replied. We need to leave, now. Suddenly, the house lights flickered and went out, plunging us into darkness. My daughter screamed, and my son grabbed a flashlight from the drawer. Its weak beam barely lit the room, but it was enough to see the shadows moving outside the windows. They're surrounding the house, the man whispered, pulling me to my feet. We need to get out through the back before they break in. We moved quietly, but the floor creaked beneath us, and then came the sound of glass shattering from the front window. A figure climbed in, followed by another. My son swung the flashlight toward them, revealing two masked men with knives glinting in their hands. The man in the suit fired a shot into the ceiling, and the intruders froze. Stay back, he shouted. The men hesitated for only a second before charging. Chaos erupted. My son grabbed a chair. My daughter screamed, and the man in the suit fought to keep them back. I clutched my cane and used every ounce of strength I had to strike one of the intruders in the leg. He fell with a cry, giving us just enough time to push through the kitchen door and into the cold night air. We stumbled toward the car waiting at the back, but more shadows emerged from the trees. The man in the suit fired again, clearing a path. Get in, he yelled. We piled into the car, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst. As the engine roared to life, a figure appeared in the driveway. Victor, standing with a torch in his hand, his face twisted with rage. He raised the torch and shouted, You can run, Eleanor, but you can't hide forever. The car sped away, leaving the burning light of the torch behind us. My children clung to each other, shaking, while I stared ahead, gripping the armrest. I knew this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. The real danger was just starting to unfold. Because Victor wasn't the only one after the truth. Someone even more dangerous was waiting for their chance to strike. The barn erupted into chaos. Dark silhouettes moved through the broken light of the moon, circling us like predators. My son grabbed a wooden beam, ready to swing, while my daughter clung to me, trembling. The man in the suit raised his gun, his voice sharp as a blade. Stay behind me. No matter what happens, don't move. The figures closed in, their faces hidden by black masks. One of them stepped forward, his voice cold and commanding. Hand over the box, Eleanor. Do that and maybe we'll let you live. Margaret's voice cut through the air. You'll never have it. Tell your boss he's already lost. The man laughed darkly. Oh, Margaret, you still don't get it. This isn't just about the box. This is about erasing every trace of Robert's betrayal. My heart clenched at the word betrayal. Robert never betrayed anyone. I snapped, my voice stronger than I expected. He exposed the truth you're all so afraid of. The masked men advanced, and in that moment, everything erupted. The man in the suit fired, the gunshots deafening inside the barn. 2 attackers fell, but more poured in through the side doors. My son swung the wooden beam, knocking one to the ground, while Margaret pulled a small knife from her coat, moving with surprising precision for her age. I gripped my cane tightly, my body shaking, but I refused to be a helpless bystander. When one of the masked men lunged at my daughter, I jabbed the cane into his stomach with all the strength I had. He fell back with a grunt, giving her time to escape his grasp. "Get her out of here," the man in the suit shouted to Margaret. "Take Eleanor to the car." But before we could move, another figure stepped into the doorway, one that froze everyone in their tracks. Victor. He walked in slowly, his face lit by the dim moonlight, a cruel smile stretching across his lips. "You fought well," he said, his voice dripping with malice. "But it's over, Eleanor. Hand over the location, and I'll spare your children." My daughter screamed, "Mom, don't listen to him." But her voice was drowned out by the pounding of my heart. Victor stepped closer, holding a gun of his own, pointing it directly at me. "I'm giving you one chance. Where is the box?" The man in the suit aimed his weapon at Victor. The two of them locked in a standoff. "Put it down, Victor," he growled. Victor chuckled. "You think you can stop me? You've already lost. My men are waiting at the lake. Even if you kill me, they'll get the box." Margaret's eyes flashed with defiance. "Not if we get there first." And then, before anyone could react, the barn wall exploded inward with a deafening crash. A truck rammed through the side, scattering debris everywhere. I was thrown to the ground, the wind knocked out of me. My children screamed as dust and splinters filled the air. When the dust settled, the truck door swung open and a figure stepped out. It wasn't one of Victor's men. It was someone I hadn't seen in decades. My breath caught. No, it can't be. The figure removed his helmet, revealing a face I thought I'd never see again, one that looked eerily like Robert's, but younger, harder. My children gasped in shock. "Dad," my son whispered, his voice trembling. The man stared at us, his eyes burning with something fierce. "I'm not your father," he said coldly, "but I'm the reason he died, and I'm here to finish what he started." Victor's face twisted with rage. "You," he spat, pointing his gun at the newcomer. The newcomer smirked. "Oh, Victor, you should have stayed in the shadows. Now it's my turn." Everything erupted at once. Gunfire, shouting, and the smell of smoke filling the barn. I crawled toward my daughter, shielding her as bullets whizzed past. The man who looked like Robert moved with deadly precision, taking down Victor's men one by one. Victor fled through the back, but not before shouting, "This isn't over, Eleanor. The lake belongs to me now." As the last of the masked attackers fell, the man turned to me. His expression softened, if only slightly. "We have to move. Now." "They'll regroup. The box is the only way to end this." I struggled to stand, leaning on my cane. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice trembling. He hesitated. "You'll find out soon enough. But right now, we go to the lake." The barn burned behind us as we sped into the night, leaving destruction in our wake. The road ahead was dark, but in my heart, I knew the final confrontation was coming. Because at the lake, the truth buried with Robert's secret would finally rise to the surface, and it would change everything. The drive to the lake was silent except for the growl of the engine. Smoke still clung to my clothes, and my hands wouldn't stop trembling. My daughter sat beside me, her eyes wide with shock, while my son kept glancing at the man who'd saved us, the stranger who bore my husband's face. The man in the suit finally broke the silence. "We don't have long. Victor's men are probably already there. And if they dig up that box before we do," he didn't finish his sentence, but I understood. "If the box fell into the wrong hands, everything Robert sacrificed would be in vain." Margaret leaned forward, her voice low but urgent. "Eleanor, you need to tell them what's inside that box. They deserve to know what they're risking their lives for." I closed my eyes, memories flooding back. Inside that box, I began slowly, is proof that Victor has been laundering blood money for decades. Your father uncovered secret accounts, illegal trades, and even the names of powerful people involved. But that's not all. There's also a recording. Robert's last words, confessing everything and exposing Victor's crimes. That recording is the reason he died. He hid it with the document, knowing one day it would either save us or destroy us. My children sat in stunned silence. My daughter whispered, "Dad knew all this? Why didn't he tell us?" "Because knowing would have put you in danger," I said, my voice cracking. "He wanted to protect you, even if it meant keeping secrets." The stranger, who looked like Robert, his voice deep, almost haunting, finally spoke. "Victor isn't the only one who wants that recording. There's a larger network involved. People who have everything to lose if this comes out. That's why they sent me." My son leaned forward. "Who are you, really?" He met my eyes, and for the first time, I saw pain behind the coldness. "My name is Michael. I'm Robert's son, but not by you." The words hit like a thunderclap. My daughter gasped, covering her mouth, while my son muttered, "Impossible." I stared at him, my heart shattering. "Robert had another child?" Michael nodded. "Before he met you, he was involved with my mother. She died when I was young, and Victor raised me, trained me to do his dirty work. For years, I believed his lies. But when I discovered the truth about my father, I turned against him. I've been hunting Victor ever since." The car swerved slightly as the man in the suit reacted to the revelation. "So, you're here to help us? Or to take the box for yourself?" Michael's jaw tightened. "I'm here to finish what Robert started. Whether you trust me or not, we're running out of time." The car skidded to a stop at the edge of the lake. The night was eerily quiet, the water shimmering under the moonlight. But I knew better than to trust the calm. Danger lurked everywhere. We stepped out cautiously, the cool air biting at our skin. The old oak tree stood tall on the far side of the lake, its branches swaying like skeletal fingers. My heart pounded with every step toward it. The box was buried beneath its roots, where Robert first knelt and asked me to be his wife. As we approached, the sound of engines roared in the distance. Headlights cut through the darkness. Victor's men had arrived. "Dig," Michael shouted, tossing a shovel toward my son. The man in the suit drew his gun, positioning himself to cover us. Margaret knelt to help me, her hands trembling as she clawed at the dirt. My daughter joined in, tears streaking her face. The headlights grew closer. Figures spilled out of the trucks, weapons in hand. Victor stepped forward, his face twisted with fury. "You actually thought you'd get to it before me? Eleanor, you've always underestimated me." Michael stepped between us, his stance ready. "Not tonight, Victor. This ends here." Victor laughed. "Do you think you can stop me? You're nothing but a pawn in my game." Michael didn't flinch.
"No.
"I'm the one who's going to checkmate you." Gunfire erupted, shattering the stillness of the lake. Sparks flew as bullets hit metal and dirt. My son shouted, "I've got it," as he pulled the small metal box from the ground. The sight of it made my breath hitch. It was real, intact, and within our grasp. Victor screamed, "Grab it." His men surged forward, but Michael fought with deadly precision, taking them down one by one. The man in the suit fired, covering us as we ran toward the car. Just when we thought we had a clear path, Victor lunged at my son, tackling him to the ground. The box slid across the dirt toward the water's edge. "Run, Mom," my daughter screamed, but I couldn't leave. I grabbed my cane and swung with every ounce of strength I had, striking Victor in the back. He roared in pain, turning toward me with a murderous glare. Michael seized the moment, slamming Victor to the ground. He pinned him, his voice low and dangerous. "You kill my father. This is where your empire dies." Victor spat blood, laughing through his pain. "You think killing me will stop them? You have no idea how deep this goes." Michael raised his weapon, but before he could fire, a single sniper shot cracked through the night. He staggered, clutching his shoulder, and collapsed to his knees. The sniper's laser moved to my chest. Everything froze. The man in the suit shouted, "Get down," and tackled me to the ground as the sniper fired again, the bullet whizzing past my ear. The box slipped from my son's hands and tumbled into the lake, sinking beneath the dark water. Victor crawled toward the edge, laughing like a madman. "It's gone. It's over." But as the moonlight glimmered on the lake's surface, I knew this wasn't over. The box was still out there, and so was the truth. The next move would decide whether we lived or died. The lake swallowed the box, rippling as if mocking us. My son screamed and dove into the freezing water without hesitation, vanishing beneath the surface. My heart nearly stopped. "David," I cried out, my voice cracking in the night air. Victor laughed, limping toward the water's edge despite his injuries. "Let the boy drown for nothing. You'll never get it back. The currents here run deep, just like my reach." Michael, bleeding from his shoulder, forced himself to his feet. "Not if I stop you first." His voice was hoarse, but his stance was unbroken. He aimed his weapon at Victor, ignoring the blood soaking his shirt. The sniper fired again, the bullet grazing Michael's arm. He stumbled, but before the sniper could take another shot, the man in the suit fired back, hitting the sniper's perch with precision. A scream echoed from the trees, followed by silence. My daughter clutched my arm, trembling. "Mom, he's not coming up. David's not coming up." I tore myself free and ran to the lake, falling to my knees in the mud. My hands shook as I screamed his name into the darkness. Then, the water erupted. David surfaced, gasping for air, holding the metal box high above his head. Relief crashed over me like a wave. But Victor saw it too. He lunged toward David, dragging him by the collar as he tried to climb out. The box fell to the ground, sliding back toward the water. My daughter shrieked. Michael charged, his fists slamming into Victor with the fury of a storm. The two men wrestled violently in the mud, punches landing with sickening thuds. Victor fought like a cornered animal, his eyes wild, but Michael's rage was unstoppable. "I've waited my whole life for this," Michael growled, pressing Victor's face into the ground. "You took everything from me." Victor spat blood, grinning through broken teeth. "You're just like him, weak." Those words ignited something in Michael. With a final roar, he struck Victor with a brutal force that left him sprawled, unconscious and bleeding in the dirt. The man in the suit grabbed the box and handed it to me. "Go. Open it now before they regroup." My fingers trembled as I unlocked the rusted latch. Inside, wrapped in a waterproof bag, were stacks of documents, flash drives, and a small voice recorder. I pressed the button, and Robert's voice filled the night. "My love," the recording began, his voice soft yet steady. "If you're hearing this, it means I failed to protect you from Victor. The truth you hold in this box will expose everything: his crimes, his allies, the network of corruption that reaches beyond him. Use it wisely because they will come for you. But remember, Eleanor, you are stronger than all of them combined." Tears streamed down my face. I looked at my children, who stood frozen, listening to their father's last words. My daughter sobbed quietly, while David, soaked and shivering, clenched his fists. Suddenly, a roar of engines filled the night. More vehicles were arriving, Victor's reinforcements. Their headlights lit up the trees like an approaching firestorm. Michael grabbed my arm, his voice urgent. "We have to move. Now. Take the box and run." Margaret pulled me toward the car, shouting, "Go, Eleanor. They'll kill you if they catch you." The man in the suit fired at the approaching vehicles, buying us precious seconds. "Get to the car. I'll cover you." We sprinted through the mud, bullets whizzing past us. Michael stumbled but forced himself to keep running, his face twisted in pain. We reached the car, but just as we were about to climb in, Victor, bloody and barely standing, lifted his gun. "Eleanor," he shouted, his voice raw with rage. "You think you've won? You haven't seen what I have planned." Before he could fire, a single gunshot echoed, and Victor collapsed to the ground, clutching his chest. Margaret stood behind him, the smoking barrel of her gun trembling in her hands. "This was long overdue," she said, her voice cold. Victor fell into the mud, his lifeless eyes staring into the night sky. We sped off just as his men arrived, leaving the chaos behind. My hands clutched the box to my chest like it was my lifeline. My children sat in silence, processing the horror and the hope that this night had brought. Michael, leaning against the seat, whispered, "It's not over. His allies will come. The real battle hasn't even begun." I looked at him, my voice steady despite my fear. Then we'll be ready, because Robert didn't die in vain, and I won't either. As we disappeared into the night, the lake faded into the distance, carrying the ghost of a war that was far from finished. But I knew something else. A new enemy was already waiting for us at the next stop. Dawn crept over the horizon as we drove into the mountains, the sun's pale light cutting through the lingering fog. I sat in the front seat clutching the box, every muscle in my body tense. My daughter leaned against me, exhausted, while David sat in the back with his eyes fixed on the window, silent but alert. The man in the suit drove with his jaw clenched, every nerve on edge. Michael, pale and weak from his wounds, muttered directions in a hoarse voice. "Up ahead," he said. "There's an old safe house Robert and I used years ago. No one knows it exists except us. It's the only place we can breathe for a moment." We reached the crumbling cabin hidden deep in the woods. The trees loomed high, shielding us from view. As soon as we stepped inside, Margaret locked the doors and checked every window. The man in the suit loaded his gun, scanning the perimeter. "Eleanor," Margaret said, "we have to decide our next move. You have the proof to destroy Victor's entire network, but you also have a target on your back the size of this mountain." I set the box on the table, opening it one last time. The documents glowed faintly in the sunlight streaming through the cracks. "Robert wanted the world to know the truth," I said softly. "He died to protect this, and I will not let his sacrifice be wasted." Michael struggled to sit upright, his breathing labored. "If you release this information, their empire will crumble, but they'll come for you harder than ever. They'll come for all of us." My son spoke for the first time, his voice firm. "Then let them come. We've been running all night. I'm done being scared. It's time we end this." My daughter wiped her tears, her tone sharper than I'd ever heard. "Mom, we have to fight back. Dad gave us this chance. We can't walk away." I looked at them, my children, who had started this night as selfish and broken, now standing with resolve in their eyes. My heart swelled with both pain and pride. "Then we fight," I said. "Together." The man in the suit pulled out a small device. "There's a secure line that can upload the files directly to the press and federal agents. Once it's out, there's no going back." I hesitated, feeling the weight of the decision. The box seemed to hum with the power it held. Robert's voice echoed in my head. "Use it wisely." I took a deep breath and nodded. "Do it." As the files began to upload, the cabin filled with the tense sound of the device working. Then, tires screeched outside. Engines roared. The enemy had found us. "They're here," Margaret shouted, gripping her gun. Bullets shattered the windows. We ducked as shards of glass flew everywhere. The man in the suit returned fire while Michael dragged himself to the door, his weapon steady despite the blood soaking his shirt. David grabbed a metal rod, ready to defend us, and my daughter clung to my arm. "Stay behind me," I told her, my voice like steel. The walls shook with the force of the attack. Men in black poured in through the windows, but Michael moved like a storm, taking them down one by one. Margaret shot with deadly precision, every bullet finding its mark. The man in the suit fought like a soldier, shielding us with his body. One attacker broke through, charging straight at me. I raised my cane, striking him square in the face with a strength that surprised even me. He fell, groaning, and I stood over him, unshaken. The device beeped. The upload was complete. The files were out. Robert's truth was free. The attackers faltered as their phones buzzed with alerts, news stations already broadcasting the scandal. Their empire was crumbling in real time. Some dropped their weapons and fled, while others fought desperately, knowing they were finished. Victor's allies screamed orders, but it was too late. Sirens wailed in the distance. The authorities were closing in. Michael collapsed to his knees, exhausted, but a small smile touched his lips. "It's done," he whispered. "You did it, Eleanor. You won." I knelt beside him, holding his hand. "No, Michael. We won." The surviving attackers fled into the woods as the first police vehicles screeched to a stop outside. Officers stormed the cabin, weapons drawn, but quickly lowered them when they saw the chaos. They secured the scene, cuffing the remaining enemies. Margaret sank to the floor, tears streaming down her face. Robert can finally rest. I stood, my cane steady, my voice unwavering as I looked at my children. You see now? This was never about money. It was about truth, justice, and family. We almost lost ourselves to greed, but we found our way back. Your father would be proud. My daughter hugged me tightly, sobbing into my shoulder. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry for everything. I stroked her hair gently. It's never too late to make things right. As the sun rose higher, casting golden light over the blood-stained cabin, I knew the war was over. Victor was dead, his empire destroyed, and Robert's voice would echo through the world as a beacon of truth. But as I looked at the forest surrounding us, a chill ran through me. Somewhere out there, remnants of that network still lurked. They would rebuild, they would come back. But I was no longer afraid, because I was Eleanor Carter, the woman who protected her husband's truth against impossible odds. And if they ever came for me again, they'd learn just how dangerous a grandmother can be. My story isn't just about survival. It's about fighting back, no matter how fragile they think you are. And to you listening right now, remember this: never underestimate the quiet ones. Sometimes they carry the loudest storms. Thank you for staying with me through this journey. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of the strength that lives in all of us, like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe for more stories that prove even in darkness, the truth always finds the light.